In 1668, when the last Vasa of the Republic abdicated the throne, there was no shortage of contenders: the French Philip Wilhelm, Karl von Habsburg, and the Tsar of Russia, Alexei. Polish nobles, as some people close to the royal court said, grew wary of the election corruption, and their bright heads conceived the idea of placing their own Piast at the throne. They found one, Mykolas Korybutas Vishnioveckis. It was of no importance that he was not cut out for the throne. The most important thing was that he was just one of their own. On the 29th of September 1669, Regent Andrzej Olszewski presented the crown to the new king. As to the quality of his reign, you may judge yourselves. Already in the same year, the Polish and Lithuanian nobility rallied to overthrow the king, and during the 6 years of his reign, 4 parliaments were dissolved. Lithuania was awarded only one privilege. Starting with 1673, the Parliament of the Republic every 3rd year had to sit in our duchy at Grodno. During the reign of the Polish ruler, the Turkish issues came to the fore. In 1673, Jonas Sobieskį beat the Turks in the battle near Chotimo. On the day of the battle, Mykolas Korybutas passed away. His brief and unsuccessful reign was over. A new interregnum began. The same contenders of European courts took part in the contest. There was again the Piast candidate, who was Jonas Sobieskį, the victor of Chotimo and Grand Hetman of Poland. He was elected in May 1674. Our nobles, however, refused to recognize the Polish ruler throughout his reign. The mighty Lithuanian Mykolas Kazimieras Pacas even obstructed the march of Jonas Sobieskį's allies, the Swedes, across Samogitia to Prussia. He thus brought to naught the rulers striving to annex Prussia, which was then ruled by Brandenburg. Jonas Sobieskį tried to form the union of the nobility and the ruler. His attempts reminded those of the first Vasa, and he was at once suspected of absolutism and aroused opposition. State affairs failed to develop successfully. 6 parliaments out of 11 were dissolved. Russia, Austria, and Sweden openly interfered in the internal affairs of the state. They started concluding clandestine agreements among themselves, obliging not to allow state reforms in the Republic. In this way, we found ourselves in agony, since we were unable to liberate ourselves from the chains of unrestrained freedoms created by ourselves and made tighter by the aliens. Hopes to regain Prussia were lost. We only managed to renew the Andrusov truce with Russia. We finally had to disclaim Kiev as well, but thanks to that, the borders between Russia and the Republic were not altered down to 1772. Jonas Sobieskį was a success in military affairs. In 1683, he defeated the Turks near Vienna and subverted once and for all the idea to enslave Europe nurtured by the Turks. During Jonas Sobieskį's reign, we saw the complete collapse of the monarch's powers. His decisions became insufficient. Consent of the opposition ministers and us, Lithuanian nobles, was necessary. The Polish gentry took to opposing any innovations. Xenophobia, hatred of other nations and religions flourished. In 1679, renunciation of Catholic faith was prohibited. In 1689, a Lithuanian nobleman, Kazimieras Liščinskis, was burnt at the stake in Warsaw for doubting the existence of God. In this atmosphere of the state's decline, the hero of Vienna, Jonas Sobieskį, died in 1696. The election of a new ruler witnessed many unseen things. The throne became quite powerless, but no less than 18 contenders wished to ascend to it. The then neighbors of the declining republic again started putting their fingers in the pie. Peter I countervailed the candidacy of the Prince of Conti of France, and the would-be Augustus II, Saxon Duke Friedrich Augustus, had to ensure for himself the support of Austria and Russia. Thus he ascended the throne in 1697, and when he left it in 1733, the republic had been turned into a state supervised by its neighbors. The beginning of the reign of August II bode nothing of the kind. Lutheran Friedrich August, brought up in the tradition of strong monarchy, ended the war with Turkey in 1699. The Karlovitz peace returned the lands invaded by the Turks to the Republic. Trouble was stirred up at home. In Lithuania, the war between Sapiega and Oginsky families broke out, which ended by the complete defeat of the Sapiegas in the battle near Valkeninkai in 1700. When August decided to reclaim Livonia from Sweden, the Great Northern War broke out in 1700. A year later, the Swedish army invaded our duchy, and by the autumn of the following year, Karl XII occupied Poland, and using the assistance of the gentry, he robbed August II of the throne. Under Swedes' supervision, the Poles elected the new ruler Stanisław Leszczyński. Supported by them, he ruled down to 1709 Poltava battle, where Karl XII had little success. Russia's Peter I beat him, and the Parliament of the Republic returned the throne to August II. Stanisław Leszczyński fled abroad and lived in the French king's court without abdicating the throne. Upon his return, August II made an attempt to consolidate the monarch's power. In 1713 he brought in the Saxon army and sustained it by the money of the Republic. Traditional gentry war broke out. Another gentry war broke out. This time the Lithuanian gentry too contributed to the formation of a confederation against August II. Both parties, August as well as Confederates, sought help in Russia. It arrived in no time. Peacemaker Peter I came with his regiments. In 1717, at the Mute Diet in Warsaw, under the supervision and diktat of Russia, Augustus renounced absolutism and plans of inheritable throne, and withdrew the Saxon army. The nobles of the Republic settled down after the Diet approved their freedoms and liberum veto right. After August II's death in the autumn of 1733, Stanisław Leszczyński was proclaimed king. The father-in-law of French Louis XV posed a real threat to Russia and Austrian interests. Under their guidance, a small group of nobles proclaimed August's son Friedrich August the ruler. In January 1733, he was crowned August III. The French failed to protect the rights of Stanisław Leszczyński to the throne, and he gave it up. August III pursued his father's policy. He tried to depolarize the Republic and Saxony and contemplated a three-partite federation, Saxony, Poland, and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. He asked us riddles too. Down to 1756, he spent most of the time in Saxony, and since 1738 he made Heinrich von Brühl the sole minister. This was said to be a pattern in Western European courts, but in our Republic, however, legislative work fell into complete disarray. During the reign of August III, 13 parliaments out of 14 were dissolved. Two factions of nobles emerged in political life: conservative Republicans, led by Potockis, and State Reform Party Familia, led by Czartoryskis. When at the beginning of the 7-Year War the Prussians defeated the Saxons, Augustus moved to Warsaw. The Republic took no part in the war, but alien armies were marching across Lithuania. It became the location for the movement and camping of the Russian army. The war was over in 1763 without bringing any significant changes in the borders of European states. In the October of the same year, August III died. The decisive interregnum began. The Republic became an arena for the contest between Lithuanian and Polish nobility and their foreign supporters.